Here. Very quickly, I just wanted to give you some ideas about what how and what you can use to do your digital portfolio, assuming that you're going to do a website, which I'm guessing most of you will do. All right. So the kind of the cheapest and down and dirty easy way to do it is to use your ASU student web space, which you have. If what you need to do is you need to go to selfsub.asu.edu after you've logged into your ASU right, and you will get a window that has some options. Now, unfortunately, I can't show you a good example because I am already subscribed to everything. But what should happen is you should see some of this should be subscribed on yours, but not all of it. Certainly not as many as I have here. What you want to look for is, let me see if I can find it. Um, yes, right here where it says personal web page hosting, you'll want to go ahead and click that and make that active and then just save it, and then you'll have a website for yourself. And the URL for that will be www.public.asu.edu slash and then your ASU right. You should get an email letting you know that, and then you'll be able to use that to create your website. And also, I'm going to let you see the inside of my world here. Once you've done that and you go to your My ASU page, you can get to those files by going to My Files over here. And if you click on that, I gotta log in really quick. I'm not really sure why, but let me do that. And down here you see I've got some other stuff saved here, but down here you see a folder that's called www. That's your website folder. And if you click on that, that's where you can upload stuff and do stuff like that, but you can also use like an FTP server or software and upload it that way, and you should get an email that would tell you how to do all that. All right, and you probably don't want to do that unless you're going to build your own website. So if you're a coder, if that's your thing, if you're a web person, you should be coding it by hand anyway, so this is a good option for you. Now this goes away when you aren't a student anymore, so that's one caveat there. All right, if you're not a coder and you're more of a designer, a graphic designer, an animator, something like that, you might want to try some other ways. One of them is to use a WordPress site, and if you go to wordpress.com, you can get one for free, and it'll basically be whatever you want to name it. It'll be that slash wordpress.com. I'm going to just show you the one I have. I have one called Get Creative, and so there it is right there. So this is how it would be named. You make up this part and then this is the rest. And they have quite a few different themes that you can pick. It's harder for you to match it to your theme if you use WordPress.com's themes, because you can't customize those. You can't go in and mess around with the PHP like you can if you got it on another site and installed WordPress. And if you do that, and I'll just explain that here in a second, you can use any theme, and you can even make up your own theme, and you can get in and mess around with the PHP and really customize it. I don't have that here, but I've done that. And it's if you enjoy kind of getting into code and messing around it, that's kind of actually pretty fun. So, but this is one way that people who are not really web savvy can do. Another thing you can do is you really pretty much everybody, at least anyone that's a design, like a graphic designer, animator, a photographer, those kind of things, you really should have a Behance website. And actually, for my face-to-face classes, I require either a Behance website or account or a GitHub account. But in any case, the cool thing is if you have Creative Cloud and you have a Behance account, you also have access to something called My Pro Site. So if you click that, ProSite is a web development software. It's online. It's drag and drop, and it's very easy to use. And I'm just going to click into it really quick. And basically, the cool thing about using ProSite is that you can design your site, and then you basically link on your portfolio page where you're going to actually show your work. You just link back to your Behance, and it kind of just sucks it all onto your site. It draws it from the Behance site and puts it in a nice, attractive form on your pro site. And on your pro site, again, you can either have one of their URLs, or you can input one of your URLs to work in there. But this takes some time. There is a little bit of a learning curve. This is good for people who are pretty familiar with web and how websites are put together, because it does take a little bit of finesse, but it's sort of a middle ground. Maybe you got some, but you don't want to spend a lot of time coding. This is a good option. Another one, and I don't highly recommend either this or Wix, but if you really are not a coder at all, this is a good option. You get some really nice, pretty stuff. It's all pretty much drag and drop. And for the first, like I said, whoops, that's not what I wanted to show you. For the first site, just one site, doesn't cost anything, so that's nice. And again, you have one of their URLs. It'll say Weebly. If you're sort of in the middle where you like to do some coding but you don't like to do a lot, you can use Adobe Muse. It's more of a web development software for designers, for graphic designers, and so it's more visual, and it's more about making it look good, and you don't have to do so much of the coding, although you can get in a little bit and see some coding on that. You do have to have somewhere to put it. It doesn't host it on Adobe Muse. So in any of these cases, you might decide, well, I want to use this, but I want to have my own domain name. I want to have my own URL. I want it to be, www.joesmith.com or whatever. You need to get a domain. So you can use GoDaddy. I've used GoDaddy a lot. It's cheap is the nice part about GoDaddy. You can get a domain name for as cheap, as $3 a year for the first year and $15 a year every other year, subsequent years. It's cheap. It's really cheap, and you can also host it here for very cheap. So you can have your website at GoDaddy and have the URL, for under 20 bucks or so. So that's a pretty good price. Don't try to use their online build your website, because it's not great. But if you're going to build your own, you're going to code your own, and you want somewhere to host it, and you want your own unique URL, GoDaddy's a good deal. Or you can just get the URL here. That's also really cheap. I like also Bluehost. I have used them. They're about the same price as GoDaddy. I think their support is just a little bit better. It's not so in your face. It's easier to work with it because it's not so overwhelming. The site is not so overwhelming as GoDaddy's. But again, you want a URL and you need a host. Bluehost is good. Namecheap for education now gives certain university students free domain names, and ASU happens to be one of those universities that gets a free domain. I've also used Namecheap. I haven't used them for a long time, but they were really easy to work with as well. And basically, it'll be a .me, M-E, instead of .com. But, if you don't care about that, then this is a really great way to go. Um, and also, they do host as well. It's a little bit, it's actually not even more. It's about the same. So if you're going to code your own and you want to host, you need a host. Namecheap, Bluehost, GoDaddy. There's also a bazillion more. These just happen to be ones I know about and I work with. If you just need a URL, these are good as well. GoDaddy, Bluehost, and then Namecheap for education. So it's nc.me. And if you can't find that, just Google Namecheap for education, and you'll get to this site. So there's a lot of little options there. Do what works for you. If you are a web person, you are a web coder, web designer, web developer, UX, UI, you should be hand coding this. And so you need to find somewhere that will host your hand coded sites, which could be any of these three companies I just mentioned, or the ASU website service. But remember, that goes away after you're not a student anymore. Or if you are not a coder, uh, WordPress, Behance's Pro Site, Weebly or Wix, even Muse, if you're sort of in the middle, is a good option. Okay, so I hope that helps and that you know what you need to do now.